Year 5 and welcome to your geography lesson for this week. So rather than starting something new and looking at what a glacier is, which is what we'll look at next week, we're going to do a mini mid-unit quiz. So we're going to recap all of that knowledge that we've learned so far to see how much you've managed to retain from what we've learned so far. So you should have a copy of the quiz in front of you. Be it if you're at school or be it at home. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work through each of the questions, just like we did with history yesterday. And I'm going to go through the questions, we'll have a chat about it, and we'll see if we can get the right answer. Okay, so have your quizzes ready, and we'll start at question 1. Now, if I'm giving you any clues for this one, I want you to just pause the video. Can you define what a mountain is? Okay, pause the video and have a go. Okay. A mountain is a large natural elevation on the Earth's surface that rises high above the sea level. So if you've put that it's a large natural hill or elevation that's off the Earth, then that's fine. But the elevation is that idea of where it moves up, it rises. Okay? So that's your answer for the first one. Okay? Number 2. A mountain can also be defined as part of a landscape with steep slopes that rise over. Now, there's multiple choice here. Is it over 700 metres? Is it over 800 metres? Or is it over 900 metres? So pause the video. Can you tick or circle the correct answer? Okay, the answer is indeed 800 metres. Now, some say that the summit's got to meet beyond the peak of 900 to 1,000, but the general definition for a steep slope or a hill or a mountain, it's got to be above 800 metres high. Okay, so well done if you got that correct. Number 3. What is the top of a mountain called? So we know we always call it a mountain peak, but there's a proper word for it. Do we call it the summit? Do we call it the top? Or do we call it the trig point? Okay, so pause the video. Can you circle or tick the correct answer? Okay, the correct answer is summit. Okay, the summit is that very top part of the mountain. It's the highest point of the mountain. So yes, it is the top, but we call it the summit, and the trig point is something slightly different, which will come up on one of our next questions. What are the slabs under the Earth's crust called? So you've got slabs of plates. They're like plates. They're slabs of rock. Okay, and they're right underneath the Earth's surface. Okay, so right underneath that crust, right at the top. Now, what are they called? Are they called special plates? Are they called tectonic plates? Or are they called titanium plates? So pause the video. Can you circle and tick the correct answer? Okay, the correct answer is tectonic plates. Okay, so those are the plates, so the big slabs of the rock that's underneath. And those are what causes our mountain ranges or our different formations of mountains, depending on what happens between the activity of those tectonic plates. Now, what is the relief area of a hill? Now, you might not remember this one, but see if you can have a go. We had a picture of a hill on one of our PowerPoints, and next to it, we had what the relief was and what the type of studies are of map pictures. So is it the top of the hill? Is it the bottom of the hill? Or is it the difference in height between the top and the bottom? So pause the video and circle or tick the correct answer. Okay, it is indeed the difference in the height. So the relief area is that area between the top and the bottom. So it's that difference in height, okay, between that top and bottom part. So it's not the top of the hill or the bottom, but it's that area of height in between. What are the features such as mountains, valleys and rivers called on maps? Okay, is it topography? Is it ordnance survey? Or is it contour lines? Okay, pause the video and have a go. The answer is topography. Okay, so topography are the features that appear on a map. So you've got the different elements of the natural parts. So we're looking at mountains, could be valleys, could be rivers, could be hills, could be beaches, could be forests. And each one is coded with a key. And that is the study that is called topography. So it's the study of the features that appear on our map. Now, what does the red part of this map represent? Is it the lowest point on the map? Is it the highest point of the hill on the map, or is it the most dangerous point of the hill that's represented on this map? So pause the video and see if you can work out the correct answer. Okay, it is indeed the highest point. Okay, so this is what we call a map view. So we're looking at an aerial view from above. If we look at this as a side-on view, that red part would be right at the top. Okay, so it's the highest point of that hill. Okay. What does the blue triangle on a map represent? Okay, let's see if you remember this one. Is it the trig point? Is it to represent a mountain? Or is it to represent the biggest hill? Okay, So have a think. We know that we've got maps on mountains, but then there'll be a blue little triangle on that mountain. What do you think that might be? We know it's not going to be a mountain, so it's either got to be the biggest hill or the trig point. Pause the video and have a go. Well done. It is the trig point. So the trig point is almost almost like a triangle point, or it might be a circular dial that has the different angles on it, the compass points. And when it's at the peak of a mountain, those different compass points will point you in the direction of where another country might be or where another mountain might be. And that trig point is that top part of the summit. Okay, so that's the main focal point of that mountain. Okay, what are contour lines? Are they the wiggly lines on a map to show how the ground is uneven? Is it to show the different elevation points of a hill or a mountain? Or is it to show where the sea level is? Okay, so pause the video, see if you can work out the correct answer. Okay, the answer is to show the different elevation points. So we know when we look at the contour lines go up in increments of 100 metres. And each line shows you where at the point on that hill it's 100 metres steep, or where on that hill it's 200 metres steep, or where on that hill it then hits 800 or 900 metres steep. And those lines that go around show you those different points on the map that are those specific heights as you work your way up. So well done if you got that one correct. Now, which mountain has the tallest peak in the Highland Scottish Mountains? Okay, now we've been doing our 3-peak challenge, or rather some of us have been doing the 3-peak challenge. And these are the 3 mountains within the Scottish Highlands. Okay, but which one of these is the highest or has the tallest peak? Pause the video, see if you can work it out. Okay, it is indeed Ben Nevis. Okay, Ben Nevis is the tallest mountain that has the tallest peak within the Scottish Mountains. Okay, we know that Nevis, Snowdon and Scafell Pike are part of the 3-peak challenge that people will participate in every year. Right, let's see if you can match these in the correct orders. Let me move my beautiful face. So you've got the crust, the outer core, the inner core, and the mantle. Pause the video. Can you label them in the correct order? Okay, well, let's have a look then. So we've got the inner core. Okay, so that's that very centerpiece here. We've then got the outer core, okay, which is obviously the outside of the inner core. And then we have the mantle. Okay, so this is the thicker part that makes up the most of that inner part of our earth. And then that very, very top layer is called the crust. Okay, so well done if you got those correct. Right, now I was sneaky with this one because I originally had given you some letters to help you with some of these, but I think because I've given you the pictures, I think it should be fairly self-explanatory. So, what are the 5 different types of mountain formation? So I want you to see if you can label the pictures with the correct names. Okay, pause the video, have a go. So the first one here you might recognise when we use the towels to create a fold, okay? So that first one there is the fold mountains. Now these ones here, if you look at them, they're in different blocks. They're in tall blocks and shorter blocks. Now we know that one of them was called fault blocks. So these are our fault block mountain formations. Now this one's an easy one. We know this has got to be volcano. And this one here, if you think about the shape that it creates, although it looks similar to the fold one here, we know this is when it pushes and pushes and pushes up, but unlike the volcano, it doesn't have an exit point, okay, and it creates what we call a dome, okay, so that is a dome-shaped mountain. And then the last one here is a difficult one for you to remember, but if you imagine that a table or something that's being flat or the line on a graph goes flat, it plateaus, so that's where it levels out and it doesn't change. Same for these mountain formations, they're flat on the top and these are called plateau mountains, okay? So we've got our fold mountains, fault block mountains, volcano mountains, dome mountains and plateau mountains. So well done if you managed to label all of those correctly. Now here's a question for you that you're going to need to have a think about. Why do mountains have their own climate? So think about Mount Everest and Mount Everest's climate, because I know we did a bit of research on that. Think about how high it is, what changes as you work your way up through that mountain, and why might that mean that the mountains have their own climate? Okay, so we're talking weather patterns here, okay? So pause the video and see if you can write down an answer. Okay, well, mountains have their own climate because of the high altitude, okay, because the mountains are so high up into the atmosphere, that oxygen level and the temperature levels, they all change. So it almost cuts them off from the general climate and atmosphere changes as you're further down the mountain. And we know that's different when we looked at Mount Everest. We looked at base camp, which was 17,000 feet up, so about 2/3 of the way up. And then we had the rest of it up to the summit. And there was a big climate change between the peak of the mountain and where we were at base camp. What are the only types of trees that can withstand the cold temperatures towards the top of the mountain? So we know we've got your general vegetation and your animals that live around the base of the mountains. And as you work your way up, we've got our leafy trees. But then as we get further up, we've got trees that have got to withstand this very cold temperature and its own climate. So which one of those is going to be the only type of tree to withstand that temperature? Pause the video and have a go. Okay, but I gave it away knowing it's not going to be leafy trees. It's actually alpine trees. So alpine is almost another word for mountain, so mountain trees, okay? And they're the thin needle trees, okay, a bit like our Christmas trees. Those are going to be the kind of trees that are going to withstand that temperature up there because they don't have such a large surface area on their leaves, therefore they're not prone as much to the temperature. Okay, and our last question here. Now, I noticed it says question 18. That's because I accidentally got rid of 2 of the questions in between. So don't worry about the question numbers. You're still on the right question. So our last question here is then, what does Mount Everest experience from June to September? Okay, now we remember that June and July were the warmest temperatures. Okay, I think we peaked somewhere around sort of -4, -5 degrees, be it at base camp or at the summit. But it goes through a weather change between June and September. Now, is this when it's the coldest months? Is this when it hits monsoon season? Or is this when they have the warmest weather? Okay, so pause the video and see if you can work out the correct answer. Okay, it is indeed monsoon season. It's the Indian monsoon season. So the Indian Ocean swipes in all of that hot and warm air that comes through, and it brings about that temperature change. And because there's the climate changes, that offsets monsoon season. And monsoon season is when it's the rainy season. A monsoon is an influx of rain, but it's a heavy precipitation rate. Okay, meaning that it rains the most all the way from June to September. So even though it's the warmest there, it's actually then the wettest, okay, because of the warmer temperatures. So well done if you remembered that and got that one correct. So that is the end of your quiz. Okay, I wonder how well some of you managed to do with that one. When you send in your work, send me in your score that you've got on it, and we'll have a look and see what answers you got correct and which ones you might have to recap on. And then our geography lesson we're going to look at next week is we're going to start looking at other parts of our mountain topics. We're going to start looking at glaciers, okay? So we're going to look next week at what a glacier actually is, okay? So well done for doing the quiz, and I will have a look at your work when you send it in. Well done, Year 5.